everybody here this afternoon. With that, I'll have Megan do the secretary's report.
So as you guys came in, the secretary's minutes were printed. If you need a copy, raise your hand, I'll come get you one. Otherwise, I'll just ask you to review them. Does anybody need a copy?
Has everybody had time to review? Any additions or corrections? Any additions or corrections? If not, I'd entertain a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion.
We have a motion, Scott. Do you have a second? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. That will have the treasurer's report from Jean.
Okay, the balance on January 1st, 2017 was $944. All our income was dues from the townships of $3,100. Expenses were $20 for food, mostly dues to the state association. And then notices of township meetings, $370, $125. The balance on hand this January 1st is $1,030. Are there any townships that still owe their dues?
For 2018, it's Addie and Willow.
Okay.
Do we have a motion to approve the treasurer's report?
I so move.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Motion and a second to approve the treasurer's report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Same sign. Motion carries. With that, I'd like to introduce our new tax director. Those of you that haven't already met him, David Lundy.
Just come on up.
Stand off in front. I'm not going to take 20 minutes of your time, but I just wanted to introduce myself. I'm David Lundy. I've talked with some of you on the phone. There's a chance to put some faces to the names. I got hired in September to be the tax director, so hopefully I'll be here for a while and bring some consistency to here. Since I started in September, this is obviously my first year doing the assessment, helping with that process. So just ask for understanding and patience. I know I'll make some mistakes, but if you guys can be patient with me and talk things out if we have different issues that arise, hopefully we can try and have assessment be as smooth as possible. And then I didn't have anything specifically to present on, but I wanted to open if you guys have any questions of me or my role, or any questions you can ask now, and I'll do my best to answer.
You indicated to me that you're going to assess for 7 other townships.
Yep.
So the other 13 townships already have somebody.
Yep, we have for the county. I'm doing 7 townships. We have Farah, Saxburg's doing 4 townships, and Hannaford and Cooperstown. Then we have Tasha Kruger that did Cooperstown Township last year, and she's doing 4. And then there's a person from Annetta doing Romness and the Lenora, and then Marlon Haugen that's doing 3 down south in the county. So trying to, because I think before there were quite a few assessors in the township, so hopefully we can, one advantage maybe having fewer is you can have a little more consistency from township to township in terms of how assessments are done. So there's, yep, so we got five township officers.
Anything else?
When let's see, yeah, and I'm at 60% time, so I try over the winter. I've tried to be in the office Monday, Wednesday, Friday. For the most part, I'll try and keep that as much as I can. But if anything changes there for whether it might be better to be in every single morning, every day of the week, or continue with 3 full days a week. Kind of see how it goes from there, but I'll try and post my hours if I can. For right now, it's 3 days a week, usually Monday, Wednesday, Friday that I'm in. If you have any questions.
Have you had any feedback, Dave?
That seems to work pretty well. Come maybe August, September, it might, for harvest-wise, for me be able to help out my uncle. I might switch to work in the mornings and then be able to help with harvest in the afternoons and evenings. But for right now, I think having 3 full days works pretty well. Well, if there's no more questions. Yep. Nice to meet you all.
Thanks, Dave. We'll move on to Wayne and the road department. A little update.
My deal is going to be about the longest 2 weeks. We have one project that's going to be done this summer. That's the replacement of the bridge on County Road 23. That's 5 miles east of Cooperstown and a mile north. It's out by the Owls out there. That bridge is going to be replaced with a double box culvert. The funds for that box culvert are going to be 80% federal funds and 20% state oil funds, the matching, so we won't have to use any of our own local funds to replace that bridge. Because we've had several times during the last 10 years or so that it's washed out, undermined alongside, and you get a big hole in the middle of the night in the road. So it's going to make it a lot safer. Be able to haul full loads over that without any worry of anything caving in. Other than that, we still will have some money left over from the state oil funds, and we have until 2019, I don't remember the exact month, to get those designated for a project. I don't remember if money will have been spent at that time. We all know it was a pretty good winter. We did some snow plowing, and cold weather is probably the worst enemy. Load limits, I got an email saying that they're going to go on part of the state next week. That's more the south and the western portions. Maybe one road up north of Devil's Lake somewhere. Haven't heard anything about this area yet. And it all depends upon how our roads, soften up. They look pretty good right now. There's always a period in there when it starts getting warmer and it still froze underneath, which I think is going to be quite a bit of frost in the roads this year because it was open for quite a while. So that'll determine how long the load limits have to be on. So, we're working on a motor graders deal. We still have some things to work out on that yet. And our truck, one truck, dug into the road, went across the road, crashed into some trees at Red Willow, and suffered about almost $20,000 worth of damage. We're working on that, whether we're going to fix it or so. you have to be careful, you know, when it gets to that time of year, when it starts thawing. We didn't think it would thaw that much. The week prior to that, the Thursday and Friday was fairly warm out, so. Other than that, unless you have questions, oh yes, I was gonna say, we do have a tractor lease that we lease for a year, and we have a retriever, and we are willing to go out and do townships. We charge $100 an hour, and would recommend we go over the shoulders twice. We're not gonna go very deep, just deep enough to loosen up the sod and the grass on top, and then let it lay there to dry out for a while, and then when the blade comes in, you can skim that off and work it back into the road. So that's available, it'll be $100 an hour, and if you have any roads that you would want to do that to, I do have a copy of 18 townships here, if somebody wants to mark it on a map and give it back to me sometime. Do that, so I'll leave that up at the desk up here. And then we did talk, I think, at one meeting where maybe if the townships could make a map out, color coded. This road we want plated every time. Some roads you maybe want 2-3 times a year. And that's what we'd like to see. It would help the operator, help you guys out, I think, too. You know, at one time we had suggested it would be nice to have everybody on a rotation so that if there is a blade up in one certain area of the county, instead of having to drive way down to the other end to do a township that's on rotation, you could just take care of them at the same time and you're there. It's going to save everybody money. So if you choose to use the map for that, maybe you want to do both. That would really be helpful for us. And any questions you have, anything would be open. Yeah, try it.
I just had a question before the meeting, Wayne, and I had it from other townships that the river runs through. Is there any help to rock those places where the rivers are? I know you guys fixed that one,
Yeah.
the Red Willow Road up there. Was
Right.
that just?
We did that. We did.
Did our, I mean, the county just paid for it?
No,
I can't remember how that.
no. There was a grant that you could apply to the State Water Commission, I believe it was, and it was kind of through the Devil's Lake because of the extra water running out of Devil's Lake.
Right.
That's where the funds were available.
Okay.
And I don't know if that program is still available, but Pilot Mound or Lenora, we did a little bit stretch up there in Lenora, I think. It was right on the.
There's a place in Washburn, at least one right, Tom, and Romness was the other one that was just talking to me today. So if you guys are interested in doing something, we should talk to Wayne and see if there's
I can certainly. I can
If
certainly.
they keep
no.
pumping, it's gonna keep, this river's just gonna keep
Right.
continuing course, that's the way it is.
Yeah, I think it has to be, within so close to a road, which that one is by Romney's Bridge.
It's working its way into the ditch area right now.
Yeah, I tried to get FEMA to do that once, but they wouldn't.
Pardon?
I said I tried to get FEMA to do that many years ago, but they wouldn't do that because it was too far away from the bridge at that time, But
Are we talking about the same spot?
the other one east of that bridge down there on the line between,
Do you have any other spots?
Pardon?
Do you have any other spots that are eating in? You're talking the Odine-Knutson Bridge, right?
I don't know if that's what they call it, I guess. But
Odine-Knutson, yeah.
Well, I'm talking about the road that's right south of that abandoned bridge in Romans Township.
The Overby Farm.
The Overby. The river comes right out to the road like that. It's washed into about the center part of the ditch already, and it will get to the road and affect the road ultimately. And as I see it, I think they need pilings to hold rock if they were going to put rock to have hook to, to stop it. I don't know. Others might have
was
different
that the bridge
ideas.
south of Iverson? No, that's different.
That's another spot.
Huh? Yeah.
Where is it at?
North of that.
One road there, over there, okay. Where it's washed out.
Yeah.
There are floods and stuff there.
Yeah, right north of my driveway.
Going to Iverson's, that's right off the bridge, right?
Right east of the bridge.
Yeah,
It's right into the road ditch also.
yeah.
You're talking about the one on the township line.
Yeah.
That ultimately will be a problem too. If it wasn't for the tree roots that are there right now, I think it would be already.
You could dump rock in that right off the road.
There's a culvert there. Also,
Right there?
on that one. Doesn't get up to it until the river gets up so high, but it is there.
Yeah, I think it could be addressed for safety, public safety. Maybe.
Yeah.
Depends upon if that grant is still available, but we can find out. I'll find out.
And having that extra water in there all summer long has to make a difference.
Yeah. Anything else? Anybody?
Thank you, Wayne. That will move to the sheriff's department. Wes?
All right, for any of you that don't know, I took over for Bob in September of last year. I hired a new deputy, Amberly Michaelis. She lives at 22, kind of in Manila County. She's from Florida, but her family is from here, and she took over the family farm. So she's been a good hire for us. Things that Cooperstown and Griggs County have been facing lately. Fraud calls have been up. The different techniques that they've been using. They will call and say that you have a relative in jail in Las Vegas, Clark County, and they'll demand so much money to bond them out. And they usually pick on the elderly. If you get a call like that, usually just hang up. I mean, you can find out if your grandson or your child's in jail pretty easily, or if they're actually in Vegas. There's not much we can do on it. They can try, but as long as you guys just hang up, there's not going to be an issue. They can't do anymore. Also, if you have been told that you won money and have to pay to get it, it's probably a scam. That one's been going on for a long time. Also, not that we have the problem in Griggs County, but they'll call a hotel and ask for a certain room number. And when they get transferred to that room number, they'll tell the person that answers that they're the front desk, there's a problem with billing. Can you give me your credit card over the phone? So then they get your credit card information. So if you travel out of town, you get a call from the front desk, just hang up and go down there and make sure. Also, IRS, it's tax season. They'll call, they'll threaten, they'll say that there's a warrant out for your arrest. Usually we're the ones that have the warrants. If it's federal, they'll call us and say, we're coming to get someone in your community. But the IRS will not call you, they'll send letters saying, so if someone calls you from the IRS, just hang up on them. Tell them to send you a letter. That's a big calls we've been getting a lot, is this trying to scam. Other than that, it's been fairly quiet this year. A couple DUIs, some accidents, nothing too major. Some other news, in 2015 we had a couple that were staying south of Sutton. The Brent Daigle is his name. He was molesting his children. He just pled guilty to 4 counts of abuse, molestation, producing child pornography, and possessing child pornography. just last month, he finally pled guilty to those. Like I said, it was 2015. Just pled guilty. April 20th is his sentencing. So we're hoping to get 60 years out of him. And like I said, that was in federal. They took it over. We charged it. Feds came in, took it. So that's a good thing. Hopefully we'll never see him around here again. Other than that, anyone have any questions?
On these calls, how did they get a hold of the first three numbers or prefix numbers?
There's different...
They've been getting that.
Right. What I watched the news one time. We don't really get too much training on it, but they just use skimmers or technology, and they'll get the 797 or 789. Just get you to answer the phone.
Yeah.
But if you get one of those calls, it's best just hang up. Or, I mean, if they call me, I kind of like to jerk them around and talk to them for a while. But they're gonna waste my time. I'm gonna waste their time.
You don't say yes, though.
Don't say yes. Yes.
I've had 2 of those grandma calls lately. They say, this is your oldest grandson. I don't have any grandchildren, period.
Yeah.
And I think the next time I'm going to say, well, you need money again, and see what they say.
Yeah. They don't like when you waste their time, but it's all right to waste our time.
That does happen.
Yeah.
Tell them to call your bankruptcy lawyer.
Right. Right. I had one guy tell me when they called and said that their grandson is in jail, he said, let him rot. My grandpa actually, it was right when I started here 7 years ago, he got a call that I was in jail out in Clark County, and I called my mom and she said, he better not be. I've never been there, so. Anything else?
Is there any drugs in the county at all that you know what? Any activity or?
Unfortunately, drugs are a thing of society and they'll always be around. Fortunately enough that we're not seeing as bad as what other places are seeing. Hopefully it never gets to be that way. We haven't had many overdoses, but with the harder drugs comes the stealing and the property crimes go up. So hopefully they'll stay out of town. Marijuana is always going to be around, and someday I'm sure it's going to be legal or decriminalized. But hopefully the harder stuff and the people dealing will get them and get them out of here. But as of right now, we're not seeing hard stuff. But we know the people that generally use, but it's hard to get them when they're using in their house and not out.
Do you carry the anti-stuff?
The Narcan, I am the only one that's trained right now. I went to the sheriff's meeting this winter, and we did have training. Talked to Nancy Painter. She's going to train my 2 deputies on how to use it and carry it. So we'll have it. Yeah, it's Narcan that you just shove in someone's nose and spray it. They come back to life, and sometimes they're mad that their high's over with, but they're still alive. Anything else? Thank you for having me.
Thanks, Wes. That Megan, you'll have a report? No?
Commissioners?
Oh, skip the commissioners. You better not do that.
There's only a couple of us here. I was gonna introduce you to your new tax director, but he was on the agenda in front of me, so I had to do it myself. Maybe you guys have all met David already. I don't have too much. I'm sure it's no surprise that the funding for county road improvement is going to change drastically in the next biennium just because of the lack of oil revenue.
Have they changed the estimates
for the next biennium, after the oil prices have come back up as much as they have?
You know, I haven't heard anything yet.
Because oil's up almost double what it was when the crash was over.
Yep.
So,
And the other thing that's happened,
with the pipeline being open,
it's taken like $7 out of the basis per barrel oil from trucking it and moving it on the rail. So the producers are way better off than they were before that pipeline got put in.
but the volume has increased a lot too with the pipeline, hasn't it?
Right.
So
But I think-
the state is getting their tax out of the volume. So
Well,
shouldn't their oil income be going up quite a lot?
We're not the only ones that got affected on
Exactly.
the downside, you know, so
I understand
it'll
that.
just be of how they prioritize. But the other thing is the value of that pipeline now that that's a
Running.
taxable property.
Mhm.
I mean, that's a giant more for the counties that it's in, but I don't know if anybody cares. I got an email through Wayne, I guess. I don't know if you guys know where the Minnecota's Cooperstown substation is, right west of West Finance, right on the township line between Cooperstown Township and Tyrell. And apparently, you know, all in that country, it's been really, really wet. And I think they've had some stability problems with equipment in that substation. So they're moving it north right across the road. And it'll be going from Cooperstown to Tyrell Township. And they contacted us because they wanted to know if they needed permitting or whatever. So I got a hold of the engineering department up in Minnesota and told them that it's a township issue. So you guys in Tyrell might be contacted.
Brian's called me a few times and we were talking about.
Okay.
They did their soil samples
Right?
recently
Okay.
just to see what they need there.
And he's a right-of-way guy, he's not an engineer, but I talked to Jennifer Johnson, she's in the engineering department up there, so between the two of them, they're thinking like maybe May, June, they're gonna try to start this project. They must have bought some land from Jim Rotner's.
Yep,
Okay.
this is in the process of they up and pushed all the snow and stuff off, took their soil samples. And
Okay.
tried to get the set-offs at least 100 feet off from the road because it's on the south side of the road now, you're gonna have more of a
Right.
snow problem.
Right.
It's right next to Hero Cemetery, right across the road is what it is.
And I haven't driven out there because a lot of those roads don't go through anymore after all the water. I don't know if everybody is aware, the water board has been changed a little bit. Instead of 5 members on the water board, there's 3 now. And the members are Tom Dahl, Andy Haugen, and Fred Lukens from Lenora Township. So, and those guys have been working on getting these legal drains kind of organized and stuff.
What was the reasoning for that?
What reasoning?
Or dropping 2 members?
We just made it smaller. It was 3 before. It was just increased to 5 members 2008 or something. And I don't know. It wasn't that long ago. It's not that easy to get people to volunteer for that kind of work, Mike. The DES director position in the county has been semi-dormant, especially since Bob Cook was the DS director, and he's kind of been living in Bismarck until he resigned and Wes took over for him. And we were trying to decide how to do that, or have that position filled. It's funded 50% by the state of North Dakota. We really didn't have anybody within the county that was interested in doing it. We we ended up hiring a consulting company called Heartland Consulting Group out of Bismarck. And they're putting together our DES information that's required for the state DES and Homeland Security. We were behind in getting stuff submitted to the state, and these guys are gonna get us caught up.
What does that DES stand for?
Department of Emergency Services.
Okay.
It's like, they will
Do the
formulate
FEMA
our,
grants and
I don't know if it's so much FEMA grants, but it's like disaster recovery, and if we had a major disaster within the county where we needed somebody to coordinate county-wide recovery efforts, they would come in and operate out of the EOC at the courthouse. There's an office in the back of the sheriff's office, kind of, that's the emergency operations center. And they would come in and inhabit that during the recovery period. Because, and I always kind of thought that way, it's, when you have a small county like this, if you do have something, heaven forbid, a giant event, the local emergency people are gonna be on site. Wes isn't gonna be sitting in the sheriff's office, you know, so it's hard to have him do both of those jobs. So, well, these guys they've done it for other counties in the past, and they seem like they're really knowledgeable. That's the other thing. If you hire somebody that knows as much about it as I do, the learning curve is going to be huge, and it's like a 20% position or something. It's not a full-time job. So I hope these guys can do what we need to have them do. And Wes has some experience with them. They came in and helped do like an active shooter drill at the school. They kind of coordinated that. Did they kind of organize that deal?
I got a hold, Sheriff Beckman actually works for them.
Okay.
And I got a hold of Beckman, and Derek and I had to sit down and we discussed it, and we went through, and then Beckman wants to talk to him about DES, and he contacted me and said that his company would be willing to come in.
Okay. And they've been really easy to work with, trying to fit into what our needs are. You know, I think so far the commission has been happy with what they've done.
So let's see if I understand you, you're trying to say that you're not seeking a person from Griggs County to do the job, you're just gonna hire this consulting firm, and they handle everything from natural disasters to a school shooting, anything like that.
Any kind of a disaster that we need countywide coordination, they would help us. And it's more of a preparation job than it is, because of the chances of us having an event like that are slim, but you still need to be ready for it. So they are working on our incident response plan, and we'll do tabletop exercises with local emergency responders, and we've had kind of they've put on a couple of meetings already where the first responders come in and actually just meet these people and find out what everybody's expectations are of everybody else. And so it's much more of a preparation job than it is an actual mitigation or managing the event. It's more of a mitigation job. I don't have a lot else. Like Wayne reported on the motor grader, that's kind of been ongoing here for the last little while. We still don't know what our options are with that old courthouse. So we're gonna have to venture down that trail one of these days. Any questions you guys have for me? Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Troy. You have anything, Dale? Now we'll move on.
So the township officers asked me to give an update on extension since we also are funded with the state budget. And so the extension budget was reduced 4.1 million for this current biennium. And that comes up to be 13.9%. So the response by the extension, the administration for statewide, has been to reduce the workforce in statewide administration, the support staff for the statewide administration, and then also area and state specialists. So those salaries were strictly off state dollars. Now my salary right now is a 50-50 relationship between the state and the county. They're reviewing that relationship and they're proposing a 40-60 relationship. So rather than just purely salary, they're looking at the whole package of salary and the fringe benefits, and they want the county to pay 40% and the state will pay 60%. So when you do the math, it ends up going up about $5,000. And Extension also proposed, if you guys want to look through what was shared with county commissioners and other people in the state, they had proposed a number of things, but one of the things was to identify the extension agent to have other roles in county government. And so the weed board officer, Tim Wallery, he was serving as your weed board officer, he has stepped down, and I have assumed that role, and the money that was budgeted for him will, as discussed, will go towards the extension budget. Now that's not, the 40-60 relationship is not finalized. They're hoping to finalize it by May so they can relay that on to the county commissioners so they can budget appropriately. But that's where the extension budgeting is sitting at right now. And this was all recommended based off on SBARE. And SBARE is kind of, you just hear about them when there's bad things happening. They're responsible for the budgeting and the policy making associated with the supervision of the North Dakota Agricultural Experiment Station and Extension. And earlier on this year, there was a push for anybody that wanted to share how they felt about Extension, pro or positive or negative, to give their feedback to SBARE. And that is still, they still welcome those comments. But if you guys, share what you feel about Extension to them so they know and they can budget accordingly. One of the other recommendations SBARE gave, besides like whole budgeting format, was that county agents are supposed to have an advisory board in place, and that advisory board is meant as like a sounding board of what are the needs of the county, and also serve as an advocate for that extension agent. And so there hasn't been an advisory board in Griggs County. I haven't started one, and I don't believe there ever was one. And so now I'm looking for members to serve on that advisory board. I'd like to meet in April, and either once or twice a year, and just helping like prioritize the needs and identify needs for this county. I guess how I've been operating in the past is people have, just stopped in the office, well, we need this, or you should look at that. And I've been addressing it as that way, but now it's a bit more formal with the advisory board. If you guys want to be on the advisory board, please let me know, or if you want somebody that you think should be on that board, let me know so I can send them a letter. So that's the changes that have happened in the extension office. If you've ever worked with Lee Gunkel, she's the family nutrition program educator. She helps at the helps with the food pantry. She's meant for low-income families, and she will be done at the end of June. The funding for her position has been federal dollars, and they've cut her position. So she'll no longer be in the extension office come July. For weed board officer announcements, there's programs for noxious weed control from the states. Come visit with me on that if you're looking for cost share opportunities. And then leafy spurge beetles. If you have a field or a patch in your pasture that you've noticed leafy spurge has gone down and it's been coated with black beetles, if you're sitting on that gold mine, please, and you want to share that, please let me know so I can let other farmers in the area know that you've got leafy spurge beetles. They're like cattle. You have to bring them to a new position. They don't fly away and go find more patches. If they run out of food source, they die off. They need to be spread to new parts. So let's keep their life cycle going and that they don't die off. Otherwise, in the past, I've encouraged farmers to go to Stutzman County field days where that weed board officer and the Department of Ag pair up together and they'll sweep. And then participants are able to bring cups home of the leafy spurge beetles. So that's an option. Otherwise, you can purchase them and they come in the mail. And it's about $100 for 1,000 beetles. And that's another option. And then back to Extension Office announcements. I got 2 pesticide trainings coming up. The 21st is full, but the 29th is still available. And those need to be done by April. If you can't make a training and you need to recertify, you're welcome to come take a test with me, a 60-question test, and then you can recertify, or if you're looking to get a certificate for the first time, that's also an option, is to take the test. Any questions?
Thank you, Megan. With that, L. Beckeris is with us.
It's going to be tough to hand you back here, but thanks for the invitation to come down here. I always look forward to this every couple of years to get down here and meet with the other folks out in the townships. Now, everybody got the books they need for their township for the next 2 years? Good. The transportation funding report that the township officers have to do to send in, the same form that you give to the county auditor is also the same form that you can send into the state. And also, if you go on the North Dakota State Department Tax Department page on the computer, there's a little place under there to do that form also. The Insurance Reserve Fund paid for the books again this year. We thank them for that. Larry and Mark Verkey went in. They picked up almost 2 tons of books. One for about every 6,000, or one for each in the township, about 6,000 books. The voter affidavit, that is coming up again. You know, somebody may need it. That insert, or that complete insert there, does not have the voter affidavit. If you go to ndtua.com under Hot Topics, there will be a little button there that you can touch, and it should print or come up on your screen, voter affidavit. The reason you have voter affidavit, you're probably hoping that nobody uses it, but somebody might try to say, hey, I'm in a township, I need to vote. So hopefully with the voter affidavit will scare them off, because it's going to go to the state's attorney after they fill it out if you don't think they're eligible to vote. I don't know what you folks tax in your townships here, but there are 22 townships in the state that tax over $100,000, and 7 of them tax over $200,000. When you get out there by Bismarck, Apple Creek, Apple Valley, they got a lot of residents out there. If you ever go to Facebook, NDTUA is on Facebook if you want to see what's going on. I haven't been on there myself because I detest Facebook. It's mainly a bragging page. I attended the annual meeting. I'd sure like to see you more come to the annual meeting, because we normally always have good speakers out there and the meals aren't bad, and it looks like it's going to be every year now in Bismarck rather than rotating with Minot. Some folks wanted to get it out to Dickinson or get it in Fargo. Well, if it's in Dickinson, we had a storm like we had a couple years ago. I don't need 6 or 7 hours driving white knuckle getting back home. And last year was really nice going to Bismarck. The pipeline protesters weren't there. That was a spectacle. You know, and attending the annual meeting, it benefits the township because you see what's actually going on out there and anything new coming up we could talk to you about or have speakers that will talk about it. It's also an allowed expense by the state of North Dakota. Somebody comes up and says, hey, I need to clean my ditch. Do you tell them, hey, yeah, go ahead and clean it? Or should you get a permit that says, here's what he's going to do, here's when he's going to stop, here's when he's going to start. You know, get that so you know what's going on. There was one township, they said, I need to clean my ditch. Yeah, go ahead. So he cleaned it, he cut that sucker about 3 foot deep. He's going to send all the water down because he didn't like the farmer that farmed next to him, so he's going to dump a whole bunch of water on him. But that wouldn't happen out here. When the townships go out and look at your signs, make sure that you have a program that says, hey, I inspected this sign, the record of reflectivity is real good, and keep a log of that. We're supposed to have done that now for about 7 or 8 years. And if the feds come around, you need to document, hey, I'm looking at these signs and taking care of them. When you put up road maintenance or minimum maintenance signs, you only do that basically for one reason. Well, maybe two. One, you don't want somebody going down there getting stuck. But mainly you're putting that up because the driver is deemed to have seen it if it's there, so he doesn't go down and get stuck. So it's to protect the liability of the township. If somebody damages a road, it's a misdemeanor. Was at a meeting 3-4 weeks ago, and they were complaining about, hey, this guy, he's a supervisor in the township, he owns a gravel pit, and he's damaging our roads. What can we do? Well, you got 2 supervisors there that see the damage. You know, act accordingly on that. Just because he owns a gravel pit selling gravel doesn't mean he gets to damage the road. Voting. Must be a resident of the township for 30 days. If grandma moves to town, she can't come back out and vote for grandson because he wants to be the township chairman. So, you know, take a look at that. You need paper ballots, so you need to keep a record of that for posterity. If you go to NDTOA webpage, there's a history there. You can go way back and look at all the grassroots where people have written things in, or Tom Moe has gotten questions, and that's the first section I go to normally when I get the grassroots. What are people having a problem with now? And most of the time, the questions that are asked now have been asked in the past. 129,000-pound trucks are probably coming, but they'll probably only kind of be on state highways because it takes an awful big turn radius to build up. You have to do one out in the township. So I don't think it'll be happening out there. Section lines, 33 feet either side of the section line. Now, all section lines must be deemed open for travel. If you know there's a washout in a section line, you need to take care of it. Some years ago, there was an incident, a kid got hurt because he's going down a section line. The supervisors knew that the washout was there, but didn't do anything about it. Also with section lines and at 33 feet, if you got a tree that's outside of the 33 feet, but it's got a branch like this hanging over, either have the tree taken down or have them cut the branch off. Because that was changed about 5-6 years ago to also the vertical plane. If it hangs over, because the tree's out, but the branch is in the right of way, it falls down on somebody. Whoever sues is going to be looking at whoever's got money. In one township on Griggs Green or someplace, they overtaxed for 3 years, and now they got to refund 24 mills a year for 3 years. I don't know how they're gonna work that in their budget, but probably not gonna be a whole lot of new gravel going in. But I do enjoy coming out here, and anybody got any questions on anything? If I don't know, I can know somebody who does.
How's the ATLR working out?
I haven't heard anything bad about it.
I wonder how many townships here are using ATLR?
Tell us what it is so we know.
There are a number of them, and the ones that do like it.
It's that program that you guys all got from our office.
A computer program for keeping track of the township.
It's annual township ledger report.
Yep.
County.
Anybody has gone to it, I haven't heard any complaints about it. And what did he do out here? You paid for it and gave it to the townships, or?
The townships each chipped in money to buy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Grand Forks hasn't done that. Cass County has. I talked to Mount Pleasure down there, and he said they seem to like it real well. Because then all the reports are uniform and easy to send in.
Are you using it, Cass?
Pardon me?
Are you using it?
I'm trying to this year. There's an update in it, and I can't get it to go. And hopefully Samantha can figure it out. So once you get it going, it's a good deal. But it takes days to get, at least for me, to get it going. So, but I'm just wondering if it's being used.
Paulette's been using it. She said it was very easy to use, but she's a computer literate. We're getting a new township clerk treasurer this year, and Stephanie Ramsey's going to do it. She's a younger lady, and I think she's kept books for the state on. She worked in the license bureau before she was married, and I don't think Paulette said she isn't going to have any trouble with it at all. But
That was sort of a problem because the young folks, they didn't want to do the paper at all, and the older folks, I don't want nothing to do with that damn computer. So it sounds like it's going over a little better, and it'll make your life a lot easier, especially when it comes time to do the annual report back to the auditor.
The only thing I can say on that is, I'm from Rosenau Township, and my wife is secretary treasurer. And now she's been having trouble issues with it, so, I mean, I don't know what the issues are, but.
I have not used it.
is it a glitch in the program? Or?
I'm not even sure. You have to ask her.
I think Lori said, is there an update that came out?
There is an update, yeah.
That will solve it.
If it's anything like John Deere Green Star updates, you update it, it fixes that problem, but it creates another problem over here. So hopefully this is better. Any other questions for the Township Association? Oh, thank you so much, and I have a manual for you too.
Perfect, thank you.
Thanks, Al. Thank you. I had one thing I was going to mention. When the ad that we had in the Sentinel Courier, I looked through there and I couldn't find it. My wife said, well, for Pete's sake, it's right on the bottom of this thing. And I was wondering how many other people had noticed it in how it kind of blended in there, like it was camouflaged pretty well. If we should have had it maybe on top of that list, it was in big letters, so that for the county association meeting, because I thought maybe when I had trouble seeing it, maybe part of the reason might be that we don't have as many people here as we normally do, is that it kind of blended in and they probably didn't notice it. It's just a comment, I don't know. It was kind of a dark print.
Yeah. I looked through the stupid paper and I couldn't find it. And my wife said, well, there it is. She pointed out that my observational powers aren't great.
Well, kind of camouflaged in there a little bit.
But I was wondering if they would have put it on top in a bigger, with the county association, township association meeting,
at the top in larger letters if it would have drawn more attention, but
Anything else? Any other questions? If there's no other questions, we will adjourn. Thank you guys for coming.